Recording in progress.
Jump inside the sub
and buckle on in,
open your mind.
because it's time to dive into
Two, one.
The deep end.
The deep end.
Welcome to the deep end.
The deep end.
The deep end, bro.
Yeah, brah, deep end.
Deep, man.
Too deep, brah.
Hello, I'm Stephanie,
And I'm Stephanie.
and thank you for joining us today.
We are so excited about our new podcast. We're calling it The Deep End because we will be deep diving into the unseen and unknown to cover topics such as reincarnation, astrology, psychic channeling, quantum healing, aliens, tarot cards, the spirit realm, and more.
Yep, we are excited to share our thoughts and our insights.
That we find in both of our interesting lines of work. So let us tell you a little bit about ourselves.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
Hello, I'm Stephanie Magdill. I am a psychic medium. I'm an astrologer and I read tarot. You can find me on my website at www.mutablemystic.com. I am also an artist and I have a background in audio production, and I am a combat veteran, and I am a mother of 3 awesome kids. And I love this work. This is awesome. It's so fulfilling, and I really enjoy working with Stephanie. Stephanie's habit.
You know
Hell
it.
yeah,
we the Stephanie. Hi, I'm Stephanie Green, and I'm a professional past life regression and quantum healing hypnotherapist. I am a wife, a daughter, an entrepreneur. I am an artist. I call myself an octo artist because I have my tentacles in every art medium you can imagine. And I just love working with people on their past lives and healing from the trauma to help them move forward in their lives. And along the way, I have discovered a lot of really amazing things.
I love the octo artist thing. That is so funny. I love that. I feel like that too. I love that so much. That's a really good one.
Yeah, I picture myself as an octopus. Actually, I think I may have had a past life as an octopus, but that's a
Oh,
different
I love
story.
that. Oh, dude, I watched this hella emotional documentary about a guy who like met this octopus and he would dive and go see it and la 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 and like, and they became friends. And then the octopus, she had her life cycle, you know what I mean? And she had babies and then she died. Well, he
Yeah.
like went, I mean, this octopus made a huge impact on this guy. Like it was crazy. He after the octopus died, like he was out diving and there was a baby that found him and just attached to his hand. And it was like, he's like, thinking like, I think this might be her baby, but the way that that little baby octopus attached to him, like it made me cry. I'm like, of course that's her baby. She's saying hi.
Aw, so cute.
Like it was just, oh, it was just so beautiful.
Yeah, I've actually in this line of work, they say if you have repetitive past life regressions with multiple people, that there is a message in there for you, for me being the practitioner, or if you have several different people that have similar past life regressions, that it somehow ties back into you. And I've had several clients who have had past lives as octopus.
Whoa, dude.
And I've had several animals of the ocean that have been eaten by shark as the way that they have died. And
Whoa.
both of the most recent octopus past life regressions were both killed by sharks eating off their tentacles. But where I really identified with it was in one of them, she was talking about how she had 8 tentacles and they were all always so busy and they were always working for her, for the same good, but they were always doing different things.
Oh, wow.
And how she was like very aware that all of her tentacles were doing these different things. Octopus are really intelligent and it's just really fascinating. And I had a light bulb that went off that's like, that's how I am with my art. Most people don't understand it. They want me to pick one and stick with it. And somehow all 8 of them together make me feel whole. I can't
Yeah.
just do one. So
No, I love that. That is so cool. I
it's
think
really,
that's,
really interesting. Yeah.
I know. That's what I love about the past life regression stuff is like, I don't know. It's like when I went through my first one, like it kind of showed me how much art really means to me and how much I really love color. Like color, I'm drawn to color. And like it's funny to me. I'll be driving down the road, and if I see something like a flower or a bush of flowers or something like that with its brilliant colors, it'll grab my attention, you know. I
Yeah.
don't know, I've always been drawn to color, and then finding out that like I didn't just pick up art in this life, like it's something that I've always done and developed over lifetimes. I don't know, it's just crazy, like the stuff about your life that completely relates to the past and and I mean, like being a lazy jaguar who wanted my food to come to me, and like I still just want my food to come to me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's pretty interesting when you start to uncover certain just little details of past lives, and it makes little things in your current life make sense in a
Oh
way that
yeah,
you never really thought of or considered before, you know?
exactly. Oh my God, I know. Like some of the stuff that I'm like, oh, so that's where it starts. Okay.
Yeah.
Like I thought
Yeah.
it was hilarious learning about myself as the lazy jaguar. Like that cracked me up.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's really fascinating too, little things like from even animal lives and how certain personalities still impact
Hmm.
you.
Oh,
Yeah.
I know. Well, yeah, when I was learning about my fish life, I don't know, I just didn't swim very well, and I don't swim very well now. And
Mm-hmm.
I have a very healthy fear of the ocean. It's just so vast and huge, and yeah, so it was really funny to learn that I didn't last that long and I got eaten by a bird jumping out of the water like an idiot.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting too. The little things like fears. I've always wanted to scuba dive, but I have this irrational fear, which I guess some people wouldn't consider it to be irrational, but I'm like terrified of getting eaten by a shark.
Oh yeah,
Like
me
I
too.
know that
Yeah.
that's not incredibly likely and people scuba dive all over the world and don't have that issue. But now that I've learned about past life regressions and how many octopus get eaten by sharks, I am very curious as to if I was eaten by a shark, and that's where that fear comes from. Because a lot of the sessions that we do, we uncover irrational fears like that because we find out that in past lives, they were actually killed by a specific animal or killed in a certain way that explains their current fear because they still carry that trauma. So that really is interesting to me. I'm looking forward to finding out if I was actually an octopus and what happened with it.
Well, I mean, one thing I've learned is like if there's something that you're drawn to or you have an affinity with or you just can't explain the pull you have to it, it's because it stems from something. Like
Yeah.
I would have never guessed if I was going to be any marine life in any past life, I would have probably been like, oh, I'd be a dolphin because I'm so silly, you know, and I'm smart.
Yeah.
And I like to get high. But like I was really surprised to find out I was just this little fish. I was jumping out of the water and it made me realize that that's where my fear of things flying at me comes from. Like a couple of years ago, I was hanging out in someone's greenhouse taking a picture of all the pretty plants in the greenhouse, and this giant monarch flies at me and I'm like, ah, you know, and I was joking that I got attacked by a butterfly. I was acting like I got attacked by a sweet little butterfly, but I just have this fear of things flying at me. And I was really
Yeah.
surprised to learn it was from that little insignificant life as a fish and jumping out of the water and getting eaten.
Yeah. Yeah.
Caught
It's pretty
immediately.
wild.
I know, it's so funny. That made me laugh. I was like, that's an interesting one. Like,
Yeah.
because mainly also if it's like, why do I have this fear of things flying at me? Like you would think it's something way cooler, you know, but then just jumping out of the water.
Right. But it was traumatic for you.
It was, damn it. I was still a fishy fish.
I think one thing that usually shocks people is oftentimes, unless they are, you know, deep into spiritual work and things like that, people that are kind of earlier on their journey, a lot of them have never really considered the idea that they have had past lives as animals or things like that. And that usually, I think, is pretty surprising for a lot of people. And that was one of the things that I found to be the most beautiful doing this kind of work was how people feel, you know, connection to animals. And then we oftentimes find out, well, a lot of time they have had a past life as that animal, and that's one of the reasons that they feel a connection to that animal. Not only that, a lot of really beautiful past lives as plants, which are really fascinating. And something that really surprised me starting out in this line of work was to find out that plants actually have emotions and experience the world around them with very deep emotion. And you, I think, actually have an experience of that.
Oh my gosh, when you asked me if I had lives as plants, I was not surprised to find out I was trees because I just love trees. I have a lot of art centered around trees and photography of trees in my home, but I saw a daffodil growing at the base of this really tall tree, and I thought it was so cute, and it really took me by surprise because I would have thought if I was any flower, I would have been something exotic or something like a lily or what have you. But I was like, oh, cute. I was a little daffodil. And the joy that I felt being a daffodil and remembering all of this. And I remember seeing in the scene, it was this lady in her garden and she was singing to all of us. And it brought me so much joy. And I kept facing her because I wanted her to come and sing to me. And like, I remember thinking every springtime, I wanted to be the first bulb to pop up because I wanted her to sing to me. And it was just, I don't know, it was something so special, just the feelings that I felt, and it takes me by surprise even just to think that, like everybody thinks you have to have a face and a brain to have a consciousness, but everything that's alive and requires care has a consciousness, it's alive. It just because isn't alive like you are, doesn't mean it's still not alive,
It's deep, man.
Too deep, right?
Right.
You know what I was thinking today? I woke up and I was looking around at my mini houseplants and I was thinking, that would be kind of fun if somebody, had a life as a houseplant versus an outdoor plant,
Mm-hmm.
That would be kind of interesting to come across.
To see what their perspective is of being
Oh,
the
yeah.
houseplant.
Mainly because of propagation, like how does that work? Like how does the soul divide like that? Do you become a brand new plant soul thing? Like I've always wondered how propagation works with plants.
Yeah, well, it's pretty interesting. I've had one session where a lady was Spanish moss in the trees
Oh, wow.
in New Orleans. And she wasn't just like a strand of Spanish moss. She was like a mass, like over several trees.
Oh, wow.
Her soul embodied a large space of it, and she could perceive the rain. She could smell the rain on the cobblestone below her. She could watch the people walking by and laughing and the parades, and she found the humans to be very interesting. She enjoyed watching them, but she had a kind of sometimes seemed a little sad that they didn't notice her, which I thought
Oh.
was pretty interesting. But I always really admire Spanish moss. I think it's gorgeous, and that was one thing that I loved looking at down in New Orleans was all the Spanish moss, and we have a lot of it around here too. There's a tree outside my house I love looking at. But yeah,
Well,
and then I had another session where a lady was lake grass, like a lake grass that was below the surface, not quite touching the surface. And she also wasn't just a single like blade of grass. She was a very large space under
Whoa, dude.
the
oh,
lake.
wow.
And so it took like most of it to die for the soul to leave. She had to be like uprooted from the bottom of the lake and then floated on the lake surface for a while, and the soul was still with it because the grass was still alive. And it was just a natural like series of seasonal events, and so it wasn't like a painful death or anything. But something that I found to be really interesting in that lifetime is she had this strong sense of the need to protect the animals, need to protect the fish, and like snails and bugs. She mentioned that the fish swimming through her made her tickle and she liked it. And then the fish got caught by a fisherman, and she was so sad that she failed at protecting this fish that she still carried the trauma from that into this lifetime.
Oh
And
my
it was
gosh.
still the sadness of not being able to protect the fish was something that she still carried to this day until our session.
Oh my gosh, that is so crazy. Not crazy,
Yeah.
like really interesting. That's
Yeah.
really just the things I know. I find it really interesting what the soul holds on to Like, because I don't know, I think it's just like the events that happen or the choices you make, and I don't know, it's just everything has a ripple effect, and like what lingers with you and what doesn't, and or actually I don't even think it's about what doesn't, it's just what you're not recognizing,
Right.
or remembering or feeling the effects of it, but until your soul remembers, you won't know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah, I've
we're a
also
podcast that swears, people. We say things like fuck and shit and
they're necessary to get the point across.
fucking A right, man. F and A, Cotton.
Yeah, plant lives are pretty fascinating to me, and it's something that never really even crossed my mind until I started this line of work. But what I've also found is that anything at all that has energy actually can have a soul or a consciousness.
Yeah, rocks have energy, like they're living, like not living like us, but it still carries energy that is
Uh-huh.
alive. It's
Yeah,
really
I've had
cool.
clients that were water vapors, that were clouds in the sky, all different kinds of elements. One of them that was the water vapor, she felt like this massive wave of sadness and emotion towards the end of her life. She was in a storm. She built up water in the clouds over time, and at one point she became a rainbow during a light rainstorm. But the end of the life was a massive storm that rained over the ocean. And as the storm was crashing and waving and thunder and lightning, she felt this massive wave of like sadness and emotion with it. And it kind of fascinates me. Like, I wonder if that's where, a lot of people perceive as like rain being the crying of the skies or the gods. I've heard of things like that. And it kind of makes me wonder if that's where that concept comes from.
Or even the energy of the rain affects the emotion of the people down below, even.
Oh, yeah.
One thing I found fascinating recalling my lives as trees that they were saying to me is that trees enjoy being useful to animals and humans. They enjoy providing us shelter, providing us warmth, providing us with, shade, all that kind of stuff, but they don't like when we overconsume them, but
Uh-huh.
they don't mind being consumed. And I really thought it was hella cute too that they love to grow closely together because they really love to cuddle.
Yeah, that totally stood out to me too. And then as I'm driving along, the 101 or the 299, I like to look at all the little clusters of the trees and imagine them all hugging each other.
Aw, that's so
I know,
cute.
especially when the wind blows, it's like they're reaching out for each other. Hey.
Yeah. Hold
It's
on to
like,
me.
I like to cuddle too.
Yeah, I've heard of lifetimes as trees because they're such a long lifetime will oftentimes result as a connection to a certain geographical area. So, for instance, I've had clients that were actually redwood trees here locally, one up in Big Lagoon. And that's why the client lives here in this current incarnation because she felt so connected to this area that essentially her soul feels at home here because she spent 300 years here as a redwood tree. And something else that was pretty interesting is the soul didn't actually leave the tree when the tree uprooted and fell over. The soul stayed in the tree through the whole decay process and described the tree being taken over by mushrooms and moss and just going back to the earth. And it was such a beautiful process. And that was just so beautiful and inspirational to listen to. It was pretty
Oh
cool.
yeah, that is really cool. Because
Yeah.
I have affinities to places like that too. Like I have like when I lived in San Diego, like every time I would leave and come visit Humboldt because my parents live up here when I was in college, I would always miss the city. Like yes, I'd miss my friends and whatnot, but I literally when I would take off in the airplane, I would miss the city. Like I just love that city. I love the vibe. I love everything about it. And like up here, there's like some kind of healing vibe about it. And I don't know, I wouldn't be surprised if I had lives as trees in both locations or even in Europe, because man, I have a lot of lives in Europe, but I don't know. There's something about France and the Nordic. I think
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if I had tree lives there too, along with the lives I do have.
Yeah.
And like also to go along with that, people who also have traumatic lives or unpleasant stuff or lives of war, all of that in certain area, like areas that you're just repelled from. I mean, a lot
Mhm.
of times it's because you've had, a checkered past in a certain area or like a certain time period. I mean, I don't know. I really could care less about the 1800s. It seems like a really scary time to me. And I honestly am wondering if there's a life in there where it just was a very scary time. I don't
Right.
know. Like I did see a life with my little brother and we were in the Civil War together. So perhaps, maybe it's that, but I don't know. I just could care less about that time period.
Right.
Well, and even the Florida connection, like I have never had any desire to go to Florida. If I'm comparing tropical coasts, I'm all about SoCal, like yes, Florida has warm water, they have great food, whatever, but I have zero desire to go to Florida. And then to find out my deepest trauma life was in Florida, I'm like, okay, makes sense.
Yeah. It's really interesting to find things out like that and not even realize it and out till you do find out about it and the light bulb that goes off is just like,
Oh yeah.
oh.
I know when you asked me where I was in that life and I said Florida, I was like, oh shit, yeah, that explains it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I've actually had clients who'd asked about certain locations and why they disliked it in certain areas, and it was stories of, yeah, like wars and murders and bad things happening. Well, and that's the one thing about the past life regression, a lot of people are afraid to do it, afraid of what they're going to find out, but ultimately the entire session is run by your own higher self. So your higher self always has your back, always knows what's going to help you the most right now, today, and they're never going to give you more than you can handle.
Yeah,
It's
because their goal
always
isn't to re-traumatize you. Like they're trying to
right.
help you heal. I mean, and
Yeah,
not to
yeah.
mention like trying to unpack my trauma life. Like in my first session when we were just asking where my anger stems from, and it turns out, oh, well, you were violently murdered in a past life from, yeah, your spouse and blah blah
Whoa,
blah. And I'm like,
dude.
okay. But like I wasn't even shown anything I was just told I was married. It was really violent. There was, it was an ongoing kind of thing, but that's all I could see into. I couldn't see any of it. And then when we were going through it in that other regression, I saw some stuff, but there's still so much of it that's not, it's like you can't really unpack stuff that easily. Like even going through your Salem life, like some of the dark checkered stuff, I couldn't see into because I'm like, well, shit, maybe I was traumatized by that too. Because the stuff that actually traumatizes you, the stuff you see, like you really do block it the fuck out. Like
Right.
it's really hard to access it. So like people to unpack that kind of stuff, you have to go into it ready to unpack it. Because one thing I also learned going through all of this and like I'm learning as we go through these questions is they are literally not going to tell you fuck all unless you ask. Like
Yeah.
you can say, they can tell you like show you a scene and there will be people in there that in your waking life now, but unless you ask, they're not going to tell you who they are,
Yeah.
like it's the weirdest thing. Like, but like you have to go into it with an intention and be very specific about your intention. Like when I went in there ready to unpack my trauma life, like I mean, we started off with the intention to unpack it and I was immediately taken into it and I was literally guided with kid gloves through it because it was a very traumatic existence and it was hard to unpack. But like, honestly, it wasn't hard in the moment. It was after the healing ceremony, once I really sat with the emotions of it and excuse me, the aftermath of it all. Like that's what's the hard part is just sitting with it after the fact. Like going through it, because you're so I don't know, at least me personally, I disassociate when I'm going through it. I can't really feel anything. I mean, there's stuff that bothers me. When I saw the children and the violent scene with me and him and there were the children there, like that bothered me and I wanted to get out of that. And
Right.
and we did. We shifted focus and we got out of it. But like yeah, your higher self will only show you what you can handle. It's not trying to traumatize you even more.
Yeah.
It's here
And
for your
it
healing.
kind of gave it to you in small doses. The
Oh
the
yeah,
first
because
time
there's
was
still so
just the
much more.
explanation. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much more. And I'm even wondering if I want to know more.
Right.
Well, I mean, I do. There's stuff I want to know, but like I realized the hardest part was the children. And it's like there's things about it I don't know if I want to know.
Yeah.
Because it's just, yeah, it's a lot. Because the whole time I'm aware that, you know, the sources are this life and then there's a life of war. And I want to unpack that one, but I'm like, shit, am I ready for that one even? Because I don't know what I was
Right.
thinking, even unpacking that life. Like it was what gonna tickle? Like, of course it's wretched and painful and ripped
Right.
me open. Like it ripped me open hearing like the whole thing. It was,
But you
yeah.
also were feeling incredibly inspired and pulled to unpack it, I think,
Oh
because you
yeah,
wanted to understand it.
I did.
But
Yeah.
your higher self also didn't give you all those details till you were ready and wanting them
Oh
either.
yeah, because I even pulled cards afterward, and because I later learned that these children that I had in that life are my guides now, and I was asking them questions and with my tarot cards, and they answered, and it was like you're on information overload, you're like highly emotional, very sensitive, just so I just was like, okay, I'll just sit with this for now. And it was a lot to sit with, but it was okay because I asked for it and I wanted it and I want this healing because I'm ready to let go of this irrational anger.
Mm.
And I've noticed it fucking works. Like I am a lot more chill with my responses and with my children. I'm like a cool mom now. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's really a hard process because I still gaslight myself because it is a very deep story. Like there's a lot to this story and it's like I feel like I've uncovered this dark family secret, but I can't talk to anybody about it because it's a very controversial thing.
Right.
And like the players involved and what happened and all that. I think it's a lot to unpack because it's like trying to navigate into the deepest recesses of who you are and why you are this way. Especially if your life ended in under traumatic circumstances, you don't have a chance to correct it in that life. And so you come back and correct it in another life. And this happens to be the first life that I've lived since those two trauma lives back to back. And my soul is on a mission to heal that. And so a lot of times when you're unpacking that, you begin to gaslight yourself. Like, is this even real? This is so stupid. Like, no, they didn't do this to you. This is so dumb. This is not real. But the healing that's taken place because of that is very real. And so that's
Right.
how it's like, and the healing ceremonies that I've done and the things I've seen in these ceremonies, like that also is very real. Like I can't come up with that shit in my fucking imagination. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like I
Right.
wouldn't even know where to begin building that kind of a, yeah. And you know, and another thing too that's been crazy in this process is my art has deepened going through this. Like, not only am I remembering the kind of artist that I truly am as a soul, but I'm able to show on canvas these scenes. Like, I'm painting this one scene from a healing ceremony. I don't know that I'll share it publicly because it's very personal, you know,
Mm-hmm.
but just the details that are going into this are like it blows my mind, and it's all because of just going deep in the first place. Like it
Right.
deepens every aspect of your life. Like I feel like I'm a much better artist now, and I'm a better mom, and I'm a better person. I don't
Yeah.
know, not even not I don't know, I'm always trying to be the best person I can be, you know, but it's an ongoing process, obviously. But like I just feel like it's just I just have a better relationship with myself now. You know, like
Right.
I know who I am. I don't need anybody else's validation to tell me who I am.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, like you also made a really good point too, that with this work, you do a lot of deep diving into yourself, but at the same time, like you said, it's really hard to talk to anyone. It's almost kind of isolating because,
Yeah. How do I
um,
people after this? Yeah.
right,
Like,
and who's going to understand this, and is it even happening at all? Because we tend to gaslight ourselves, especially earlier on in the journey. But I don't think, necessarily we ever stop. We always kind of question ourselves over and over, which we got to not do. But that's part of learning this journey and this
well,
healing
it's learning to
process.
trust your inner knowing, trusting your
Right.
intuition and what you know to be real and true.
Yeah,
That's the battle.
yeah, especially in a society, or if you're not surrounded by other people that believe the same or believe in you, and if you're surrounded by other people that are gaslighting you, or it's very isolating.
Oh yeah.
So you're making these massive discoveries within yourself and having these massive, revelations, but yet also very isolated. And it's a very common experience for people going through spiritual awakenings and doing their shadow work and deep diving into their traumas and stuff like that.
Oh
Who's going to
yeah.
understand it?
Oh my God, for real. Like that's why now I've just kind of been selective about who I share this information with. It's like now,
Right.
but also it's just like, you know what? That's what half the point of this podcast and hence the name. It's like this
Yeah.
is deep shit, okay, that we're trying to talk about here. So it's kind of in the title. So if you can't expand your mind, then bye. Like
Yeah.
you're not gonna like it here. Too deep. Because this is just a place for us weirdos to talk about the weird, crazy shit we've been discovering.
It's deep, man.
But what I love is that I feel like there's more and more people who are searching for more answers than society has given us for
Oh
so
yeah.
long. And
Because people
the
are starting
veils.
to wake up that there's more. This is not what it really is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Saturn and
People are coming into
Pisces.
into their powers, and the veil is thinning to where people are perceiving that there is so much more. And I love that. And I hope that it continues to head in this direction, because it's an exciting time, I think.
I do too. And I'm just so excited to be on this side of it. Really I'd like to thank my spirit team for waking me up about 10 or so years ago, having me come into my gifts.
Yeah.
Because
How long have you had your gifts?
well, okay, so according to my higher self, we all always have our gifts, but I realized or remembered them about 12 or so years ago, 12, 13, maybe more. Before I moved to San Diego, I had a little blip of stuff. Like I was introduced to shrooms and I and I kind of was a late bloomer with weed too. So like I was introduced to some of that stuff and like I started to like notice things and stuff started like reacting to my thoughts, And so I'm like, okay. And then, I met people who like brought me into my gifts, were catalysts for my gifts, and like other people who helped me, navigate them and which was cool. And then I forget exactly when I started like professionally sharing them with people. I want to say it was around COVID. I started to like put myself out there and I don't know. Cuz like it's my past life readings kind of started as like this party trick. Like I would be, just hanging out drinking with people and they would be talking and I would start seeing them in scenes that were not this time or could not possibly be this time period, even like a memory or something. And I would just start jokingly talking about what I saw. And sometimes it resonated, other times we just laughed about it. And I started to notice like I was on to something. And I don't know, it just kind of went from a party trick to like people were like, hey, so and so wants you to read them now. Like people that I read as a quote party trick, then other people, they would bring me other people. And I'm like, okay. But like, and it was really fun. I loved it so much. And it just kind of snowballed after that. And then during COVID, I started really studying. Like I've always studied astrology, but I really dove into it.
Stephanie and I both have experience with past life readings, but the difference between us is that she can actually read your past life for you, and I put you into a hypnosis trance where you go back to your own past life yourself. So it's pretty interesting that we have that connection there, but we both approach it from a different perspective.
Well, and the thing that I love, the glue that holds us together, is we both can't see into ourselves without the help of someone else. Like I have always wanted a past life regression because I've kind of have blips of stuff and I've asked psychics before about things. And so I've been able to kind of put stuff together here and there. But I was linked up with you and I'm like, yes, I've always wanted to do this. And then I come to find out you can't regress yourself, but I can read past lives. So I'm
Yeah.
like, let's join forces and fight crime.
Yep. Yep. That's what brought us together, is because we both can't heal ourselves, so we have to heal each other. No.
Exactly. And we both have this unquenchable thirst for knowledge, like metaphysical knowledge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's been fun. So yeah, I'm your channeler, baby.
You know it. That was interesting that we found out along our path is another thing that brought us together is that we've had past lives together.
Oh yes, many past lives. Like I saw so many, like I saw witches, and it's funny seeing that because I have this crazy aversion to being labeled as a witch. I'm like, everybody shut the fuck up. You're gonna piss off the Puritans. I like just have this thing. I don't know, like when witch culture got really popular, I'm like, what are you doing? You can't say that out loud. What are you doing? Like, I don't like being labeled a witch. And then come to find out, we had a past life and you were my sister and kind of got yourself into some trouble and it ended very.
We are interrupting this program to deliver an urgent announcement to all citizens of Earth.
Oh my God. So our recording just got shut off in the middle of our recording our podcast at exactly 5:55.
Whoa, dude. That's
Whoa.
crazy.
555 is change, good luck, and transformation.
Oh, I
It's
love
pretty
it.
interesting.
Mhm.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about your astrology?
Okay, so astrology. The cool thing about astrology is it's more than just your sun sign. It is so fucking much and it's so deep. And I still feel like I have no business teaching people about astrology because I still have so much to learn. But there's this astrology chart and you have houses 1 through 12. It's divided into different areas of your life that it covers, and each sign rules a house, and whatever house is on your first house cusp is called your rising sign. And that is whatever sign the sun was rising in at the moment you were born. And that sets the tone for your life cycle. So you and I, for instance, we have a Gemini rising, which, by the way, Jupiter is about to go into our first house. Jupiter is the planet of luck. And I was kind of saying this on one of your posts, but like Jupiter is the planet of luck and expansion and knowledge and philosophical stuff, spirituality. And I think it's really cool that we're starting this podcast this year and Jupiter's going into our first house. Both of us collect that's a lot of luck. And I'm like here for
Nice.
it. So yeah, it's really cool. I could go into that on our astrology episode. So like the rising sign is your life cycle. So you and I both are Gemini risings. So that means your rising is like your sense of self. It rules your appearance. It's like the first thing people see and notice about you. And so ours is Gemini, which rules Mercury. So that's your chart ruler, is what your rising planet is, which is Mercury. So we are, quote, mercurial, and Mercury rules communication, how you think. It's that little pesky bugger that's always going retrograde. So people who are Mercury ruled, they feel the retrogrades deeper. And then, of course, depending on where your Mercury is and what house is, what area of life is wreaking havoc for you. You also have your sun sign. You got your moon sign is also plays a factor in your life. It's just who you are emotionally.
So when we read our horoscopes, like in newspapers or magazines, we're reading the sun sign, right?
Well, you can, but if you don't resonate with it, read your rising, because
Oh, okay.
newspaper horoscopes place that sign in the first house, right? So Aries risings will be, the traditional zodiac. So Aries rules the first house, Taurus rules the second, Gemini rules the third, and so on. Well, if you're a Libra rising, then Libra starts your first house, and then your second house is Scorpio, and then your third house is Sagittarius, and so when you're reading your magazine horoscopes, read Libra, and there's even times, because I'm a Sagittarius sun, but my rising is my opposite sign. So it's like I have a very flip-flopped fucking contradictory life, bro. It's been chaotic, So sometimes I'll read my sun sign, or other times I'll read my rising. Like certain parts of the year, I don't know why, I can't explain it, but certain parts of the year I resonate more with the Sagittarius stuff, and other times I with the Gemini. But I don't know, the more I know about astrology now, I don't really read magazine horoscopes. Now I check my transits. I check where the planets are. They're transiting through my houses, like especially the area of life that I'm struggling in, like what's going on with my finances. I'll look to see where Venus is and what aspects are being made to Venus. And I've also noticed I have my Venus in Capricorn, and that's a cardinal earth sign. And so when Venus goes into other cardinal signs, it's also very lucky for me as well. So when Venus is in Aries, I feel comfortable there. When Venus is in Libra, yeah, stuff like that. It's really cool. Another thing with transits that I've noticed, being mercurial, when things go into Virgo, man, do I like just completely get everything done. Like I love when planets go through Virgo because it's like really good energy. Like if you notice times of the year where things are just going for you, like it's good to see what major transit is going on. Like kind of notice the patterns in your life that way, so that when they happen again, you can take advantage of that energy. Like when I see that, like when the sun and the moon are about to go through Virgo, or even Mercury, that's when I plan the projects around my house, because Virgo also rules my fourth house, which is your home. And so,
It's deep, man.
yeah, it's a whole thing. But we could get into that
Interesting.
deeper. Yeah, it's so
Yeah,
fascinating. Like
it is. Yeah.
when you actually start having astrology work for you, it's fascinating.
We'll save the deepness
Yeah,
of the astrology for when
yeah,
where you can write it all out and have your thoughts organized.
I know, right? Jesus Christ. But it's sometimes it flows and it impresses me. Sometimes I'm like, shit, I
Right.
didn't know that either. And because I'm saying
Right.
it, it's so funny. Like when you open up and let go and let the universe talk through you, like being a
Mm-hmm.
messenger, like also being Gemini, Mercury ruled, I've noticed that I am a conduit for things. I'm a messenger
Mm-hmm.
because Mercury is the messenger. And so when you open up to the universe in that way and you just let the message come through, like it's amazing. Like it's like
Yeah.
such a gift. And it's times where I'm like, oh shit, in my head, I'm like, damn, no way, what? And I'm like, blah, 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 blah. It's like I couldn't have come up with that shit if I tried.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel that oftentimes I think it's interesting. That's how I feel whenever I'm writing music too.
Oh yeah. Are you kidding me? Oh my God. That's why the title of my autobiography, trademarked by the way, is going to be called Accidental Greatness, because all the happy accidents that happen when I create stuff like music, like there was this one, I was making this one song and I have all these samples on the timeline, and I was moving them down so I can work on this one section. And I was grabbing the samples as I needed them and I was letting it play. And as it was playing through what I just did, it played this one sample that I slid down the timeline to work with later, and it fit fucking perfectly. I couldn't even do it if I planned it. And I'm like, shut the fuck up. And I'm like, okay. And I play it for people. And they're like, damn, that's really good. How do you do that? I'm like, oh, well, I got this delay and like I put it on 3/4 and trying to sound all smart. I was like, no, dude, accidental greatness, brah.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting how things like that will just kind of, yeah, happen. I understand that. And
It's like when
it's
you're
beautiful when
It
it
is.
happens.
It is
Yeah.
beautiful. I like to think that like your higher self is doing a little heel click.
Yeah, yeah. That's interesting that you say that, because one of the ways that you can tell that you're on the right path with certain things, whether it be creativity or things like that, is just the synchronicities that will just line up that are just amazing or awe-inspiring that you just didn't even think of. And I feel
Mhm.
like it's very spiritual to do art, and you're kind of in the spiritual zone, and sometimes things like that can just take form and you're just the one moving it, but it just creates itself, which is really
Mhm.
amazing. It's just another way of communication from the divine, or
Well,
it's
because I like to think
beautiful.
about it where it's like the painting's already done. I'm just like carving out all the pieces to make it.
Yeah.
One time someone asked me like, how do you know when to stop? And I'm like, I don't know. I just know. Like I know when to stop. I know when it's done, you
Yeah.
know. And it's just like no brushstroke is an accident. It all adds to the masterpiece. If one little element wasn't there, and the same with music, like you can add this low fucking track that just kind of modulates in the background. But if you took it out, you would notice, you know. My ex-husband used to get upset with me every time I would paint because I was a fucking bitch the days I was just really irritable. And he was like, why do you do it if you don't enjoy it? And I'm like, because I enjoyed the end when I could admire it, you know, but the whole
Mm-hmm.
fucking process just pissed me off. And it was so frustrating. And I don't know, I was like, why do I get like this? And I think it was because I was just trying to make it something that it wasn't, you know. I'm like, oh, what's the message? Oh, what's the thing? Where's the picture? What's going on? Who's coming through? La, 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 la. Finally, I just was like, fuck all that noise. And I'm telling you, this went on for years. And just recently, in fact, I saw a post on Instagram and they were like something about just every moment, like allowing things to just happen and just finding the joy in the moment and doing what looks beautiful to your eye in that moment. And I'm like, okay, so I did a painting where I didn't give a fuck what happened. I just did stuff that I thought looked beautiful. And like what ended up coming out was like crazy to me. It was so beautiful. And I'm like, okay, so that's the secret, really. That like ever since then, I completely enjoy the process now. So funny. And my art is way better, you know, than it was when I was trying to be a perfectionist about it. I mean, I
Right.
wouldn't say it's better. I find it more appealing. Like, I don't care what other people think about it anymore.
Right.
Like, I know it's
Right.
fucking weird, you know, it's so fucking weird.
But there's like a really beautiful message there and symbolism too, you know, with trusting in the creative process of the art and just knowing what, you know, brushstroke goes where and when to walk away, you know. Both of us have talked about how during a spiritual awakening or during, you know, your spiritual healing or going through these journeys, we tend to kind of gaslight ourselves and second guess ourselves. But you
Hmm.
know, we need to kind of take it more of like the same approach as we do with our art and just I don't know why, but that is just how it is. You
Oh
know,
yeah,
just trust
definitely.
in, I know that that's how it is, which is hard. You know, society has taught us to second guess ourselves and to not trust certain intuitions and be disconnected from our spiritual sides and things like that. So to have trust in ourselves in this process, there's a lesson in that.
Oh,
Go with
definitely.
that.
Because when I was in college and I made music, I remember saying like, oh, you know, I really love hearing what my soul sounds like. Because I had a friend in college and every time I played stuff for him, he would always tell me what the song was about. And it wasn't necessarily like I consciously did that when I made it, but it just happened to be what I'm going through right now, you know? And I'm like,
Mm,
oh my God, like it was amazing to me. And so I always said, like, oh, well, I know what my soul sounds like. Like, I want to know what it looks like. And so I started
mm,
painting. And now it's like the stories that are coming through. Like, one thing that's fucking funny is I paint so many fucking hearts, like all the time, like even accidental hearts. Like, just you'll just find them in my work, you know, and
mm-hmm.
they're everywhere. And it's just so funny to me. Like, my soul is very much, I don't know. I just love love, you
It
know.
loves everything. It's romantic.
I know for someone who's so love love, I'm like, get off my fucking lawn. Don't like no barbecues at my house. No, I'm just kidding. I would love barbecues at my house, but everybody's leaving at 9. And you're cleaning up after your damn selves, you freaking
Right?
heathens. No, no. But yeah, I don't know. It's just been really interesting doing an art journal, you know. I really enjoy art journaling too. It's like, and I do mine through just collage and like stickers and like it's definitely a story. And it's funny too because I have elements that draw your eye this way and move your eye this way and move your eye this way, the same way I do on a canvas. It's like the same flow with my art. And I do the same thing with music. Like I really love automation when I am mixing. Like I'll move sounds all over the fucking place and send them through this FX channel and send them through that FX channel and send them through there. And then they'll come back and meet here and go through this plugin. And it's just this sonic adventure for the listener. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it's just really funny the way you create art, no matter what it is, it's the same, no matter, you know what I mean? It's the same method of telling a story. You draw them
Yeah.
in and send them on a fucking journey.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my favorite thing to do, is to draw them in and then send them on this fucking journey. And then when they come back, be like, yeah, isn't that cool?
On a
Like,
journey to the deep end.
right? They're like, yeah, it's great. I'll see you later. Fucking weirdo.
So something that I found that's pretty interesting through the past life regressions, and we were talking about communication with spirit through art, is the various methods of communication that we can receive messages, whether it's through art or using a whole different variety of methods, depending on what you will interpret as a message. So your guides and your higher self are going to use your vocabulary or your skill set to communicate with you.
Mm-hmm. They
So,
well, and it's also in ways that you understand,
right,
because it's all tailored for you and your message and what you need and everything. It's all tailored for you. And
right.
there's things about what you create that people will pick up on. Sometimes the universe will use you as the creator to, send them messages out.
You will be like called to send out messages to certain people and feel compelled to, and you won't even realize why you're doing something, but it will call other people to you or things like that. But also just ways from day to day how you can receive messages from your higher self or your guides, whether it be through like angel numbers, symbolism, song lyrics, or even using tarot cards.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I also see numbers sometimes, like fucking, the date of birth, like my kids or someone I know. It's like that's the time, like my birthday is 11:25. So when it's 11:25 on the clock, I'm like, oh, my time. And so
Mm.
it's a little like wink to the universe, time to show gratitude, because I always like to use the time to show gratitude, time to remember.
Yeah, I thought
On
that was
them
something.
gratitude glasses, bitches.
Yeah, putting on the gratitude glasses. I thought that was something that was really beautiful that you had said the other day that I thought would be worth sharing. Is it's the attitude of lack is what holds a lot of us back, right? Like that's one of the most common questions I get in my sessions is whether or not people have blockages to their financial abundance. Almost everyone seems like they're struggling financially. And more often than not, the higher selves say it's because of their attitude of lack, that you don't appreciate what you do have. And so you're focused more on what you don't have. And so it brings more of not having.
Like I can see, but like I'm blind, like I'm blind to everything around me that I have, and all I can see is what I don't have. And so it's like when you focus on that and focus on that, that's all you see. One day I actually had to like shake myself and look around